Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week on the Laundry List. Our good friend Todd is up in Sedona, and so you get stuck with just me. But I do have a very, very special guest joining us this week. Some of you have heard me speak about her, my lovely mother, hello, Jennifer, who's here in studio in Scottsdale with us. And I'm very, very excited. One, that you're here, and two, that we can have you on as a guest.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read the laundry list and then the promises like we do every week, and then we'll jump right into it. Oh, and by the way, we do have my lovely best friend in the whole world, Ralph, in studio with us. So if you hear him, he's here. He might chime in from time to time. So this is a laundry list. 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. 3, we are frightened by any people and personal criticism. 4, we either become alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have a overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it's easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we became addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings, which we receive from living with sick people who are never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is a family disease. We became para-alcoholic and took on that characteristic of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. 14, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. So that's what we got. Yeah, that's what we had. And then this is what we get. 1, we will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. 2, our self-esteem will increase as we give ourselves approval on a daily basis. 3, fear of authority figures and the need to people please will leave us. 4, our ability to share intimacy will grow inside us. 5, as we face our abandonment issues, we will be attracted by strengths and become more tolerant of weaknesses. 6, we will enjoy feeling stable, peaceful, and financially secure. 7, we will learn how to play and have fun in our lives. 8, we will choose to love people who can love and be responsible for themselves. 9, healthy boundaries and limits will become easier for us to set. 10, fears of failure and success will leave us as we intuitively make healthier choices. 11, with help from our ACA support group, we will slowly release our dysfunctional behaviors. 12, gradually with our higher powers' help, we will learn to expect the best and get it. So, I know right before we started, you said you identify with some of the characteristics on the laundry list.
Practically all of them.
I remember the first time I ever read that, I cried. Yeah. Cause it was like, finally this all makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, even it's been an awakening for me watching this podcast and seeing you talk about things that, even though I've been in and out of these rooms for decades in 12-step, there are things that still are not healed in me that are on that laundry list. And I would like to, read the red book, get into it a little bit more, and maybe heal some spots in me that are still there and present. Especially, I'm the queen of people pleasing. And where'd you learn that from?
I think I learned that through my mother.
Yeah.
And
because the thing that really has helped me with all of this is, I think for the longest time, I thought a lot of it was my fault. Right? Like if I could have just done this, or if I could have just done that, or if I'm sure, I think that you probably could relate to that when you were a little kid,
because,
maybe you can speak to that.
When my parents got divorced, in the 70s, they were like on the cutting edge of people getting divorced. So it was kind of a stigma if you came from a divorced family. And I was visiting my grandmother in Michigan, and this well-meaning church lady that lived across the street had a prayer circle and put me in the middle of it. And I think I was like 9 years old, and prayed about the divorce. And I felt like they were praying for me, like I had caused it.
Yeah. We've actually had guests on the podcast before that have said that same exact thing.
So that 9-year-old girl is all of a sudden, I think my whole childhood changed immediately during that divorce, because my mother moved us away from my dad because he was the alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, I think I thought I had to prove something or be a good girl, but I stuffed a lot of feelings, and I was not a flight little kid. I didn't cower. I fought. Mm-hmm. I threw things. When I get pressed up like that in that panic state, I just lash out.
Like your teenager more so comes out.
Yeah, but I was 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And I asked my mother about it the other day, because something that you had said on the podcast, I asked her, I go, where do you think that angry little girl comes from? And where do you think I was born with it? And she said, well, your grandmother always admired that trait in you, because she was a same personality, 4'8", weighed 90 pounds. And you didn't want to mess with her if you were misbehaving or being unkind or not being caring. It was always related to how you treat other people, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to be the good little girl, but inside there was this kind of fighter kind of feeling like, don't back me into a corner, you know?
Don't back you into a corner, for sure. I think when I think about, just going through, my own kind of healing journey,
right.
It helped me to realize that, like, and one, that, the script has already been written, right? But that it wasn't anybody's fault.
Right.
Right.
And that's where I'm trying to figure out, because I'm right in the middle of a 4-step. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because my mother is, passing away slowly.
But real quick, aren't we all?
Yes, we are. We are. She's at the end of the road. Hopefully I am too. No, that I'm not at the end of the road. Sure. I'm sorry to say that. Cancel. But yeah, I feel like sometimes I assign a lot of blame on my shoulders, and I'm constantly trying to make up for that. Yeah. That inside voice that tells me, the shame, the guilt, here, you messed up there. Yeah. You need to be better at this. You need to be better at that.
But the thing that I really appreciate from all this is that, it talks about giving yourself grace, right? That, you did the best I could. You did the best you could. I did the best I could. And we all, it talks about taking a blameless inventory.
Yeah. I was curious about that. Because I've only done,
you've only done like almost like if it's like
polar opposite
the
of
polar
that.
opposite, right?
And so as I've been thinking about this 4-step that I'm writing, I'm thinking, how do I extract the blame from there?
Well, the thing that,
write a different one.
No, but like the thing that Todd talks about that I love and, I've begun to iterate is that everything happened exactly how it happened because that's the way it was supposed to happen. Right. So there is no blame, there is no, everything happened and that's that. Right.
Right.
You didn't like no one intentionally sets out like, I'm going to get into a fight with my partner and it's going to impact my kids.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
It comes
It's
from,
almost
it
like
comes from
the children disappear when you're in that
well,
moment.
no, or just in any confrontation, it's not like the consequences are just because you were doing the best that you could
Right.
with the tools that you had.
Right.
Right. And the tool that you talked about, of, that 9-year-old, posturing aggressive girl comes out. Right. Cause that's how you figured out how to keep her safe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's the tool that you used.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I am a very protective person.
Yeah.
And my focus always has been mostly on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I come like very last. And when you do that too much, then it builds this anger inside, like,
Well, there's
what about
no peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had a hard time learning how to take care of myself, but I'm getting better at it. I am so amazed when I listen to you, and I shared the latest podcast with Grammy last night after dinner. It's amazing to me that you know all these things at you're 28 years old.
Yeah.
Almost 29.
Almost.
And I wished, well, everything happens the way
Exactly.
it's supposed to, but it would have been nice had I been able to have the same awarenesses that you have, so that I know you're going to be able to stop the cycle. And I'm very, very proud of that.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah, one day at a time.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
No one sets out to continue the cycle of family dysfunction.
No,
right?
but at least your awareness
of course.
is heightened. And
but the one thing that I believe from, more wholeheartedly than not, is that I think a lot of parents, and I'm not a parent and I don't know what that is, but I think a lot of parents set out to try to alleviate as much pain for their child.
Absolutely.
Right. But the thing that I now believe about pain is that pain is sometimes like the most healthy thing that can happen.
Yes. And,
right?
And we run from pain though.
Well, yeah. But like without pain, there is no happiness.
Yeah. You have to.
Right. Like if I didn't go through this extremely painful experience of separating from probably the only girl that I ever loved up to that point. And I would even make the argument that I probably didn't even really love her, right? Because it was, and a lot
I think you felt like you owed her something
for sure. Like loyalty, cause at one point she did save my life.
Right.
Right. And I felt like I owed her my life, and it just became extremely unhealthy and codependent. And it's funny that I think that the unhealed version of Blake was attracted to some of those angry traits, that same posturing of the 9-year-old that gets angry when they get cornered. Right.
Right. Well, obviously.
because that's what I felt was like how love and protection was shown.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't know any better.
That wasn't the only way you felt.
No. But I'm just saying, that's.
Yes, that I wanted to protect you from alcoholism in general.
For sure.
And I had a spouse that was, at the time.
Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't care if he let it fly. I mean,
at the time he was, and I was just trying to. I wanted to separate, but because of how the impact the divorce had on me as a child, I thought it was the worst thing I could do to you. But that's because that was my story. Yeah, and
everything happened exactly how it was supposed to happen. Right. So that we're both sitting here on a Saturday in Scottsdale. It
kind of relieves me to hear you say that over and over again, because I do carry, guilt about
for sure
things, because you want your children to feel loved and cherished, which you are.
For sure.
And you have been since the day you were born. But I know that I made Well, there's no such thing as
No.
mistakes.
No.
But I was just behaving out of that 9-year-old girl.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were just doing the best that you could because of, I mean, we can, circle back on, some of the stuff that I know that you went on in, your childhood.
Yeah.
And with the tools you had, that you're just doing the best you could.
Right. And I felt it was like a betrayal or something to tell my secrets or tell about my childhood traumas. The only place I really felt safe talking about it was in a therapist office or, to be really vulnerable and expose those wounds that run very deep.
Yeah.
And
it's so funny to me, like the difference from going to 12 steps to 12 steps. Like you can tell people that really want to share something, but they just won't. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, like once you're used to being vulnerable, and that's one of the promises, like you can tell when people are like, you're telling a half truth here.
You're not all the way there.
You're not all the way there,
Yeah. I was in a meeting last week where I felt that coming from the speaker, and I felt sorry for her, Yeah.
And I think the thing that I've realized is that no one escapes this family dysfunction.
Nobody.
And I don't care who you are, where you're from, socioeconomic, nationality, religion, like everybody has some form of this.
Agreed.
And I almost think that sometimes it can be harder for people that have that white picket fence, perfect family, because it's so like undertones of just like the sickness.
Well, I have a lot of clients that are that way, but I also was trying to create for you the white picket fence.
Yeah.
But knowing my entrepreneurial spirit and my creativity, I was just always on the outside of that because I viewed the world a little differently.
For sure.
Made different priorities. Risk taker.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
then you have that.
Yeah. I think that's something that you and I both share is that like I probably did learn this from you is that like it always is going to work out.
Right.
Like it doesn't, I don't know how sometimes, right. I don't know why, I don't know,
it's God.
like I don't like, and at the end of the day, it's all going to work out.
Well,
right?
The funny thing is the other day I was thinking about my art career.
Yeah.
And how I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Everything was just placed in front of me. The Flourish downtown. They called me and said, "Hey, I got a building for you. Do you want to make a gallery space out of it?"
Yeah.
And I didn't even have it on my radar. And, when I started out doing murals and at the very beginning of my art career in people's homes, it was just because I was hanging out with moms that had little children.
Yeah.
So, and then it just builds on that and goes forward. And my latest gig, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It just came out of the blue. But everything has always worked out.
For sure.
And it's scary. And then,
but is it?
I think after a lot of practice, it's not as scary.
Because I almost enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're just getting in the middle of the river and riding the wave. Like if you would have asked me exactly a year ago, where if I'd be sitting here with you, knowing the things that I know, having done the things that I've done, I would have thought you were insane. I would have said, you need to get dragged off to the loony bin. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe there is that side to me.
No. But I'm just saying like, it's crazy what can happen in a year.
Absolutely.
And I would have never have thought, and also part of it is that, the thing, owning my piece is that I was under a lot of, being an extreme codependent, right?
Well, I can relate to that for sure.
Being an extreme codependent, I was doing anything and everything to keep this one person happy.
And from abandonment.
And so I didn't feel those feelings of abandonment.
Exactly.
Right. And
I've done that same thing.
For sure. And not saying that makes my behavior.
I did it for Daddy for years.
Make that, okay. Right. No. It doesn't, not saying that it makes my justified, but that's my piece in it. Right. Because I didn't realize how pervasive my ex-partner was on just my thought process in general.
Yeah.
Right. Like they, and I, whatever, it doesn't even matter. I'll just say is in their family, it has just as much dysfunction as ours, but on the surface, it looks perfect.
Right.
Right. And it's like, if you don't fall in line, there's going to be consequences.
Right. And then it
that
might be in a passive aggressive way or whatever.
Yeah. Or just like, doing things, using money to try to control and just being like, well, we did this for you. I mean, it's just as messed up as, the whole not having any money and not, it's like, oh, we're going to do this for you.
Right.
So now then we get to dictate how you behave.
Right.
Right. And I never really got down with that, and it created issues, when I was just like, no. And
because you're going to do what you feel is best for yourself.
Well, yeah, but it was this palindrome because then I was rocking the boat and I was the problem.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because I was so scared to be alone that I would end up compromising what I believed in.
Yeah. And
and I wouldn't speak my truth. And now that
and you and I are alike in that way as well.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
And there's lots of things that, I wish Dad was here too, because there's a lot of things that he does that I'm a spitting image of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of,
I got some of the good stuff from both of you, and I got some of the really bad stuff from both of you.
Yeah.
And not saying good or bad, it just is what it is, right?
What it is. It was characteristics that are similar.
For sure. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Me either.
Yeah. No.
And your father's and my relationship is like polar opposite of it was when he was, in his addiction, and, forgiveness. And, the other thing that came to mind earlier was, Cynthia used to always say, don't stop before the miracle happens. And like you said, a year ago, you would never have envisioned this morning with us sitting here.
No.
But
I would have told you were insane.
Right.
And you need to get SR-22 and get locked up.
Well, thank God that we are where we are.
For sure. And
I think also this whole, my mother's illness for the past 2 years.
Well, go ahead.
Has healed a lot of relationships.
Well, I don't even think you really know the half of that, right? Because I remember, and I'm gonna try to say this without crying, is that I went to Grammy and I said, Grammy, I know you've had a great life, and because it was at the time, it was probably a little bit over a year ago, and we didn't really know, like, she was on death. We didn't really know what was going on, and I was going over there to just have a conversation that if that was the last conversation, it was I was good with it, you know. And she posed the comment to me. She said, the one thing I wish more than anything is that you guys can all figure out how to love one another. Right. And that's kind of what really launched my, cause it is an inside job, right? Like me wanting to try to fix everyone else is just in the other laundry list, cause I'm just trying to control and manipulate. Right. But if I work on myself and then, I get divorced and I go crazy for 6 months and I'm, it was all part of to get to where we are here. Right. And then, cause that was really important to me, is that, cause I think that that's what's most important for her,
Right.
because she is such a conflict avoidant. Like she will tell you one thing.
Right. Tell Andy
something different and then tell me something completely different.
Exactly.
Right? Like she's wants to, play this grand puppet master.
Uh-huh. And she's been doing it for decades.
And she's really good at it.
Yeah.
But that's all goes back to the family, the cycle of family dysfunction, right?
Right. But that keeps her in control. That's why.
Because that's what she needs to do to feel safe.
Right. Right. And I've often wondered because, she had amazing parents. I mean, if you want to really think of a Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, but
I think there was also, because she made that reference to Grammy and me being similar, that maybe.
Yeah, from the stories I've heard, just as, I've never met her. You
never met my grandmother or grandfather.
Never met them. Is that I think that, and this is just my opinion, is I think her mom was a totalitarian. Like it was my way or the highway.
Oh, absolutely.
And
she
I think,
ran the show.
and I also think it's funny because being a grandparent, I think is completely different.
Yes.
Because the Grammy as a Grammy was completely different than she probably was as a mom.
That's very true.
And I almost think that Grammy,
and it was a different.
I almost think that Grammy went so far above and beyond with us grandkids because she felt guilty for what happened to you and Uncle Andy.
I think you're right about that.
And she was trying to make up for lost time or lost, because she was a single mom and she did work a lot and,
she had her cross to bear. She really did. And, there was a lot of shame for her to be a divorced woman in the 70s because the wave of divorce hadn't hit yet. So I wasn't even allowed in a Girl Scout troop because my mother was a single parent. The Girl Scout leader wouldn't have this child that was from a divorced family in her troop. So, there was stigma attached to being divorced and that she didn't really know how to handle it.
And now it's the stigma if you don't get divorced.
Right.
Why'd you stay so long? Exactly. Should have gotten out of there years ago. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know she did her very best. And even though she still drives me crazy at times, I just love her to pieces.
For sure.
She's so grateful for every little thing that I do. And just going over and sitting in that dining room with her last night for dinner, and I'm wearing one of her clothes she wanted me to go through her closet, so I'm wearing one of her things she can't wear anymore.
Coco's specials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just grateful for all the healing, and that I know my mother's when she was on death's door a year and a half ago.
It's it was like this time of year.
We thought we were going to lose her for sure.
For sure.
And she made some huge statements to me about her accountability for what happened. And her denial, or even, validating for me that my truth was my truth, because she didn't want to face it.
Yeah, but also the other side, which is great that she do that, but the validation needs to come from within, right?
Yeah,
that ultimately, other people's opinions.
Yes,
we give ourselves talks about in the other program, a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of our spiritual program. But in this side, it talks about we give ourselves approval on a daily basis.
Yes, and I need to work on that,
I think I think everybody does. I think the world out there is a harsh, cold place to ourselves, right?
And you know what I'm finding, because now I work alone all the time. I paint by myself all day. That monkey brain kicks in sometimes. And you need to create balance where you're not spending a lot of time alone.
The thing that I found is, because I love being alone.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that. I heard that the other day and I was like, yay, you're learning that.
And it's becoming a superpower of mine. Because for the longest time, like, this is the first time in my life, in my entire life, that I've lived alone.
I know.
Which is crazy to say at 28 years old.
I was thinking about that the other day, but I think I never lived alone really too much later. Like, really, I lived with Grammy, then I lived with your dad and all the boys, and then we got married, and then it was much later that I ever lived alone. I lived alone I had roommates in New York City. Yeah. But yes, I think that is something I missed along the way. Mm-hmm. And I live alone now. Mm-hmm. And I am enjoying it. But 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, I would like more interaction with people,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and
meetings are good for that.
But there's a difference between isolating and being alone.
Definitely.
Right? Like,
definitely.
I enjoy.
And during the pandemic, I isolated.
And I
sure.
enjoy being alone, but I don't isolate. Because I still can be alone, but be social, right? Like, going and sitting with Ralph at the coffee shop is social, but I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing.
Thrilled for you. I think it's just amazing. And
I think the one thing, and then before we wrap up, I know, Ralph, I know. The one thing I'll say before we wrap up is that this really, hopefully, by me saying what I'm about to say, you can kind of let yourself off the hook, because I'm happy for, like, I wouldn't change a single thing, right? Like, it happened exactly how it was supposed to happen, so we can be sitting here right now. And you did the best you could with the tools that you had at your disposal. And the trickle down effect was never your intention, and I don't blame you for it. Right.
Thank you so much.
And that's what this whole thing is about, right? Getting to the place where I see very clearly what happened, why it happened, and I'm okay with how it happened. Right.
Right.
So,
as a parent, I guess I still have a lot of work to do, but my obsession is that you're a happy person.
Yeah.
Because I have never, there hasn't a day that has gone by in my life since you were born that I wasn't wishing the very best for you.
For sure.
And it makes me feel good that I know you feel that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but just, I can't make you not feel guilty. I can't make you feel any of that, right?
That.
Like, that's,
I know
that, but that's also part of the thing is that
me.
that's yours to figure out.
Right. But it's comforting to me to know that you felt it as you were.
And I think that the hardest part was that I didn't realize at the time I was being controlled and manipulated to paint a certain narrative by my partner, because then it was easier for her to control me.
I get that. And I thought that many a times, even though.
And I wouldn't have never been able to see it, because I was so like, she was angry. I would, do anything to make her not angry. Right?
I understand. Yeah.
And, I look back at some of that stuff, and it was like, when I'm looking at it objectively, I'm like, that was a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I didn't see it that way, know, and I couldn't.
And I knew that I couldn't tell you anything at that time.
No.
I knew that you were in survival mode, and I knew you were doing the best that you could.
For sure.
Navigating
with the tools I had.
Yeah, right? With this relationship.
Which wasn't many. Wasn't many.
that you were in a rough spot and there was nothing that I could do. The best thing I could do for you was let you alone and let you figure it out.
Yeah, and it all ends up working out, right?
It wouldn't have mattered if I told you what I was thinking and feeling, because you were answering to somebody who was far more integral into how you were feeling about yourself at the time.
For sure. All my approval and validation came from one person.
And so if I stepped in and tried to give you that validation and approval, it would have just rocked the boat.
Blitzkrieg, I'm coming full speed ahead. Full speed ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so grateful that we're in this space now.
Yeah.
And thank you for...
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Mom. I'm sure the listeners will really enjoy this, and hopefully, this can, for a lot of the people out there that you might not have a relationship with your parent at all, you might not be talking to them, you might not have spoken in years.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing is, do the work yourself, and that's the solution. Right.
Right.
And, that there's hope, right?
There's hope, definitely.
There's a lot of hope. Because,
like if you'd asked me this like a year ago that we'd be sitting here, I was grieving you all the time.
Yeah. Same, by the way. Yeah.
And I would get little snippets from Uncle Andy. Not that he said, I'm Switzerland when it comes between you and Blake. But every now and then I'd say, have you seen him? Have you heard from him? And he would say, yeah, he's fine. Or yes, he's doing okay. He never revealed anything that was personal, but I knew he, parent to parent, knew what I was really asking, And so there is hope. And I had become a little hopeless, but I am not that way anymore. That was a big relief on Christmas morning.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things that as that time heals all, and if people are, doing the work, and that for the people out there that there is hope, whether you're a parent or you're a son or a daughter, that things always,
And we think we have to control it, but really everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to be happening.
Exactly.
But we decide that we need to get in there and do something to manipulate it,
but that's
so
part
that
of the
we get the result.
But that's part of the script too.
Right.
Right.
And really all we need to do every day is surrender to God's grace and be the kindest, most loving human being we can be to ourselves and to others.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially our dear children.
Of course, and our dear parents. And our dear Ralphs.
And our dear grandbaby doggies.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Todd will be back, I think, next Saturday with me, and we look forward to...
Sorry I missed you, Todd.
Next week on the laundry list.